Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. We are back live, the final live show of the week. At least that's planned since the Cowboys are on bye, and they can't hurt us this Sunday or Thursday or Monday. Tom Downey here, producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes for today's live show. Some super chats to get things started on today's stream. Yeehaw! With how the NFC North is playing, it would be a miracle if the Cowboys got a wild card spot. But if they do, it's like you said, would be the same result. I do think your schedule sets up better to be able to make a run if you start beating actually competent football teams on a consistent basis, or at least a semi-regular basis. NFC North has to beat each other at some point, but I don't think you'd find that many people, even in the audience, who truly believe this is a clear-cut, like, top 5 or 6 team. Now, like, they can sneak their way in, but they got to start showing out a lot more than what they've shown so far this season. Option Pawar, let Dak deal. Who has regressed more this year in terms of the coaches in terms of the scheme and play design, or players in terms of physicality? It's a good question. Look, in general, it's a little bit of everything right now. So I do want to emphasize that and not just make it sound like it's just one thing. I think from an offensive perspective, to go away from the stuff that was actually working last year just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I think there's a pretty real disconnect between the entire organization as a whole, and I hope that this coaching staff spent the bye like they did last year, making changes, figuring stuff out, making adjustments. Otherwise, look, they were not that great on offense last year. They've been worse this year for a variety of different reasons, but they got to start showing some other stuff because what they're doing right now isn't working. Which brings us to the pin poll on today's video with 68% voting no right now. Will the Cowboys make the playoffs? Y for yes, N for no. Odds are against them. Although someone always said, never tell me the odds. The schedule does get easier. You know, if you can be the team that I thought you were going to be, you can beat this year's Eagles, you can beat this year's Falcons, you can still hang against the Commanders, but they got to go on a run like they did last year, and I don't think they're as close to making that run as they were this time in 2023. So, Y for yes, N for no. Get those answers in for me in the comments. Y or N. Will the Dallas Cowboys make the playoffs as your votes come in? A reminder, today's show is made possible by Game Time. They have a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time picks filters out the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. Download the Game Time app today, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Today's show is also made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get that $50 instantly when you play 5. Now, this has been a pretty popular conversation for other fan bases, but I've seen plenty of questions on it as well. Looking ahead to what you're going to have this upcoming trade deadline and next free agency and offseason, what would you do with Micah Parsons? Would you trade him or would you pay him? Because I don't think doing neither thing is a remotely good idea. And hopefully the Jones boys feel similarly. Have my doubts on that. I also did not say that right, but it's funnier to say it wrong. T for trade, P for pay. What would you do with Micah Parsons? I actually do think you can make really strong arguments for both of them. And the reason being is that you have a very valuable asset and a great football player. Figuring out how you maximize him, whether on your team or getting more stuff back for him, that's what's got to be figured out, which is probably more of a January, February conversation than I think it is right now. But you guys can vote anyway. T for trade, P for pay. The Super Chat menu on today's show, $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong, $300. I get to rock the Pop-Tart Halloween costume this year. We'll wear it on the Cowboys-Niners game, which might save us some of the pain from that, by the way. I am not looking forward to this upcoming game. I am not looking forward to it. 500 custom Cowboys jersey. Most hundreds in October gets the custom MVP jersey. That is today's Super Chat menu. Now, we also have for you a question to answer. The confidence level you have right now in Mike McCarthy. Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comments. What is your confidence level right now in Big Mike? This is just specifically Micah Parsons or Mike McCarthy. The Jerry Jones conversation, I know that answer's low, as it should be. I think we all have the mental capacity to have two different thoughts about two different things at once. Sometimes on social media, apparently we can't. It turns into you mentioned that, but what about this? Well, sure, but I wasn't talking about that right now. That was a different conversation. That's a whole new sentence you just said. Kind of annoys me. Confidence level in Mike McCarthy. Now, I appreciate JKD Records clarifying it. 8 if Jerry wasn't in the way. That's fine. You can put a qualifier on it if you want. I have no complaints there. I see 0, 0, 8, 25%, 2, 3, 1, 3, 10, 1, negative 69 from Ecuador Man is always a good one. The goal remains a 50% like ratio. If we get there, before I ask about it about 10 minutes into every show, I'll do a shot. But we're not even close to it. We did not get to even a fourth of the... Or actually, we didn't get to a fourth of likes. Very sad. Not even 69 likes. Like John says, confidence in what exactly? Him as a head coach. But also, there's your answer, right? So like that video if you have not already done so, as we will get set up for the live portion of today's Cowboys, where we'll talk news and rumors. We'll talk bye-week changes, stuff that... I will mention it now. I am really upset, and frankly just kind of sad, that the bye-week changes are very similar to what I asked for last year. And they did some of those things. And now I'm asking for them again. That's frustrating to me. You can get your mailbag questions in via hashtag Cowboys or by Super Chat, like Econ and Ajapawar did earlier. And we'll break down where a bunch of different Cowboys sit at the current moment with various injuries. All coming up live here on the Cowboys Report. 4 topics on this edition of the Cowboys Report. We'll talk about Micah Parsons since so many other fan bases want to talk about him. The latest on Tyler Guyton. If the Cowboys could trade for this specific back. And Troy Aikman, boy, he ripped the Cowboys wide receivers. We'll break that down. Before we get there, I appreciate everyone who has already subscribed, getting us to 199,000 subscribers. We are 90 subs away from 200,000 subscribers here at the Cowboys Report. So thank you all so much. And if you're one of the many who has not yet subscribed, change that. Hit that sub button right now. Let's talk Micah Parsons. The Cowboys are struggling. The 3-3 mark is not indicative of how poorly they've played, frankly. And Micah Parsons is due for a massive contract. And that has kind of kickstarted some trade rumors. And I get it. I do think you have to make a decision. And it doesn't have to be before the trade deadline. This can be done in February or before free agency. But if I ran the Cowboys, and trust me, I wish I did, I would make my Micah decision before free agency. And I would either pay him before free agency to free up my salary cap space, or I would trade him and get assets back and also free up my salary cap space. No matter what you decide, it should be big, right? It's either going to be a big contract or a big trade haul because he's worth it. Both sides of that same conversation. He hasn't done much this year. The injury, of course, not helping things very much either. You don't find the level of production in his first 3 seasons outside of Hall of Fame pass rushers. Those guys don't really exist. So regardless of how you feel about maybe the podcast stuff, the contract cost isn't going to go down. Whoever ends up paying Micah Parsons is going to make him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. That is what it is going to take. Justin Jefferson makes $35 million per year. Micah's going to beat that. It's a question of how much. Nick Bosa got $122.5 million guaranteed. I'd bet Micah Parsons beats that. It's a matter of how much. So if you are truly committed to paying him and subscribing to the I don't want to trade away my best defensive player, I don't want to trade away my best players, okay, that's fine. Then skip the August holdout and then cave to what he asked for initially, crap that I fear this team is going to do. Don't drag your feet on that. But if you subscribe to the, hey, he's a great player, but you know what? I want the draft assets. I want to pay other players instead and not pay so much to one big guy on defense. I want to get the haul back in exchange. Okay, that is a valid argument. Now, I think you can maximize your return in the offseason. I do think you are able to do that. I think you are able to get more impact by waiting and figuring out what exactly that trade's going to be and not trade like the Lions and then get pick 32 or something. Now, here's the Jalen Ramsey trade details. I think you got two examples here. A first, and a fourth in exchange for Ramsey initially. The Khalil Mack trade was the Bears got Mack, a second and a fifth. The Raiders got 2 firsts, a third, and a sixth. So you're kind of in that 2 firsts and change range. That's what I think it should end up costing. If you're going to do it right, that's what you should be able to get back in exchange. So what would you do with Micah Parsons? T for trade, P for pay. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Let's talk Tyler Guyton. Now, the Cowboys have said they expect Guyton to return to left tackle once he's healthy, likely next week. A couple different coaches, ownership had said, hey, he wasn't quite 100%. Now, he practiced all week long. He didn't miss any time. He was a full participant. So the theory of, hey, that could be just a convenient excuse to not play him for a game, I think is possible. I think had that been the case, he also probably would have played once the backups went in. I think that was, maybe he wasn't just 100%, and at that point, there wasn't worth it getting re-injured. But you can read this quote from Mike McCarthy and interpret, hey, maybe he's not practicing quite the way they want him to. Here's what Mike said. Like I told Tyler last week, you have to practice every day. You're not going to get where you want to be because it's about those 5 linemen getting out there every single day and getting those reps. When that doesn't happen, it can be bumpy, and that's what we're going through right now. So should Tyler Guyton start at left tackle? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Now, McCarthy tends to believe in 2 things. Number 1 is playing your best 5 offensive linemen. He'll make an exception if, say, your Hall of Fame right guard doesn't want to play right tackle, and he'll make up some excuse about fantasy football and shield his player, but that's typically what he believes in. He also believes that continuity matters a lot. Chemistry, time on task, reps together, etc. All of those things lead to better offensive line play. That's why when you're constantly shuffling guys around, the O-line looks disjointed. It is a unit. It is one organism to an extent. And I also agree with those things. I think playing Guyton satisfies both of those things. I think he is one of your best 5 offensive linemen. And I think he definitely helps the continuity side of it. Plus, if I'm being honest, I have to consider 2025, and shuffling around Tyler Smith again probably doesn't benefit anybody involved in that conversation. That's not to say Guyton has been some perfect, great, elite player. No, he still has some technique issues. He's also gone through a bit of a murderer's row along the offensive line, or against pass rushers so far this year. It'll get a little bit easier because, you don't get Garrett and T.J. Watt and all that. So I guess he didn't get T.J. Watt, but I digress. Should have a little bit more relaxed time against some of the guys you're going to play down the stretch here. I think he needs those reps. You made your decision in the training camp. Hey, we're going to play the younger raw guy. You knew what you were getting into. You have to see that through. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. It is curation designed to save you even more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. If you don't want to go to a Cowboys game, I get it. But there's NBA games coming down the pipeline here. There's college football games in the general greater Dallas DFW area. They've got something for you no matter what. The Game Time guarantee is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, that's ChatSports, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. Go back to trades. ESPN's Bill Barnwell suggested the Cowboys make a trade for Bears running back Khalil Herbert. Here we go again with the Herbert trade idea. I don't hate it. Because I think there is some good stuff to get out of him. The trade idea from ESPN was a 6th-round pick. Goes to Chicago. Dallas gets frankly, the third string back for the Chicago Bears right now. We'll talk about some of the reasons why maybe you don't have as much confidence as you did previously. Of note, you have no 7th-round pick, so one of them, conditional 6th, is the best that you can end up doing. So would you make that trade? Or I guess the worst you can end up doing outside of a pick swap is better terminology. Would you make that trade? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Look, Herbert hasn't played hardly at all this year. He's been the number 3 back. He looked good in the preseason. Hasn't done anything so far this year. He hasn't had a touch the last 3 weeks. But when he has played previously, he has offered some explosive runs. There was a great point that was mentioned by Barnwell that he had more runs of 13-plus yards last year than all the Cowboys backs have had combined in a year and a half. It's just been ugly. He's better than Zeke right now. I know Herbert ain't doing anything, but I've seen Zeke get a lot of snaps. Doesn't intrigue me so far. Now, maybe you would waive Deuce Vaughn to make room because this team doesn't want to cut Zeke. Who knows? My biggest issue, Herbert is a rental. I don't know if a rental is what you need right now. Let's go to Troy Aikman and his comments. In his interview with DFW The Ticket, man, Aikman did not hold back. He lit in to this Cowboys wide receiving core. Here's what Troy Aikman said. The routes are terrible. I think the routes are terrible. I think they run terrible routes, and I've thought that beyond this year. I think CD has got to improve his route running. As a quarterback, if you're not certain where guys are going to be consistently, it's hard to play the position. That's what I see. I see guys lazy coming off the line of scrimmage. Sometimes they run. Usually if they do, it's because they're going to get the ball on that play. But if they're not, they don't. And it all ties together. I'm not impressed with that part of it. I just finished watching the Baltimore Ravens to have them this week. You put on film of theirs and watch their receivers run routes, and they come off the football. So does San Francisco and Green Bay's and others. It's hard to play the quarterback spot if you're not certain how guys are going to run routes or where they're going to be. And I'm not speaking for Dak. Dak may say, I think their routes are amazing. But as a former quarterback watching it, it's got to get a lot better. So give me your one-word reaction to Troy Aikman just ripping into those Cowboys wide receivers. Let me know in the comments of today's show. My one word is damn. That is Troy, go back and listen to the interview. They didn't ask him what he thought of the receivers' routes. They kind of asked him general offense receiving connection issues, and he went right to the route stuff. He did not hold back there. Now, I will say, I think there's a lot of stuff he pointed out that is correct. Also, how is your coaching not fixed that by now? Shouldn't that be a big thing? And you can even listen to if you've ever watched the Kurt Warner, JT O'Sullivan stuff. They kind of have mentioned similar things. They don't like the route concepts either. This is very much a timing base where the footwork and the eyes have to be married to the receiver's routes. And if that's off, it can get very, very ugly. And I think you've seen some of that this year. I think it's an all compounding snowball thing, right? Receivers aren't doing their routes properly. The scheme isn't very good. The quarterback can miss a little bit high. I think especially against the Lions, he missed high far too frequently. The schematic's not good. The timing's not good. It all snowballs out of control, and it just compounds upon each other, and this is what you have. The vibes are bad right now. For a 3-3 team, I don't know if I can recall a worse vibes around a team that's 500 at the bye week. One word reaction to the Aikman ripping. Savage, needed, damn, ouch, facts, accurate, truth, honest, facts. A lot of people also putting out the scheme stuff too. Again, I agree. It's all connected. I do think, not that one thing can fix everything right now. I do think if you were to suddenly just change the offense and everyone knew the offense and you had the offense to do it there, I think the schematics are better. Suddenly everything else would look a lot better too. It's an ecosystem, and all the parts of the ecosystem are just out of whack right now. Steven said castration. Damn. Obvious, true, facts, preach, savage. Lake says psyop. We're still going to make the playoffs. It's funny. All right, the super chat. Many of them will get to 2 super chats that have come in. $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong. $300, I get to be the Pop-Tart mascot for Halloween, for our Halloween stream and everything else that goes along with it for our Thursday show of it. $500, the custom Cowboys jersey. And most hundreds in October, the MVP jersey. Object Pawar, has Dak been done dirty by the front office and the play calling? I think there's a lot of stuff that's not helping everything right now. I don't think we can just absolve Dak of any and all blame, and his footwork has not been great this year. I think the offensive line has contributed to that. The receivers not having their timings down on the routes has contributed to that. I think that in general, the front office did a lot of players dirty this offseason. You didn't pay your guys till the very last second. I think that has clearly impacted them on the field, especially Dak and Lamb. They've been off. Training camp matters. I think that the front office kind of hamstrung McCarthy by making the roster worse. And then Mike has hamstrung the roster by not calling good design stuff. We had the conversation before the year began, where'd you get better? Not really at receiver, kind of lateral there. Quarterback room was the same. Running backs got worse. Tight ends were the same. We were hoping the O-line would be better, but that was probably more of an end-of-season conversation than a day one conversation, which is what we said. And so far, it has not been better. The D-line got worse. The linebackers, I do think, are better. Cornerback room, because of injuries, is the same or worse. Safeties, I thought were going to be the same or better, and they've played worse. A lot of things that all going into the same buckets, same conversation there. Joseph Ian Torres, if Mike had just changed his run scheme, we'd have more success if we ran outside zone, tosses, duo. Stats speak for themselves. Mike can't seem to adapt, especially in game. Joseph's got it. It is really frustrating because I went back and looked. Let me just look at my bye week changes video. We'll have to that in a second. This year's version. The number 2 point is the exact freaking same. And I was actually very surprised to hear Mike McCarthy publicly say what I had derogatorily said this ground game was. We'll get to that in just a second here. But Joseph, you are spot on, my friend. Frankie Espinoza, any changes the Cowboys go after Deontay Johnson? I doubt it. And it's frustrating. Because you were so bad in the offseason and you're paying the price for that right now, I am okay not going after rental pieces. If I thought this team, this coaching staff was close, okay, then I would go for it because I think he helps you. I would almost rather go after him in free agency than I would during the trade deadline. Which may sound weird, but I do think we have to be honest about your overall hopes and expectations too. Before we get into the 2024 version of our bye week changes video, Do you want the Cowboys to be better after the bye? If that is you, which I think it should be every person watching outside of the Eagles hate watchers here, then like the video for me right now. I'm actually, by the way, very frustrated to point this out before we get going to point number one in depth. A lot of these changes are the exact same stuff I asked for last year. So number one, go back to stealing plays and feeding CeeDee Lamb efficiently. The Cowboys offense this year, the reality is they're bad. They're a bad offense. They went from pretty consistently with Dak and Kellen and even Mike being a top 5 offense to their bottom 10 right now. Now, the turnovers have been a big factor there, but they haven't moved the ball efficiently or explosively. When you can't do either, bad things tend to happen. Now, they made changes to their offense after the bye last year. After the bye last year, this was one of the best offenses in football. They were second or first in success rate, EPA, passing, pass success rate. They were even better on the ground, which matters. Now, they still weren't super great overall. They're still negative in the EPA like most ground games are, but they were better. The offense has regressed this year, and there is a lot of reasons for that. We'll talk about Dak and Lamb and the ground game and the offensive line. But one of the biggest things, the stuff that they stole from other teams last year, the stuff that they stole and implemented into their own offense kind of got phased out again, which doesn't make sense to me. Like, the stuff that was working for the Cowboys offense last year was CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, save us. Also, here's some Shanahan plays that we stole. Big Mike, I have the Miami Dolphins 2022 playbook. If you need that, just email me, DM me. I will send it to you. It leaked the other day, and I made sure to download it. I will send it to you. That way you don't have to sign, I don't know, Schottenheimer, Tolles, whatever it is to steal the plays. I will just send you the whole playbook. I think your passing concepts right now are pretty bad. I suspect your quarterback likes hitch routes and comeback routes. I don't care. Don't use as many of them. Like, you've got guys running into each other on routes. Your timing is all kinds of off. There's not a lot of times I say, wow, wide open guy for you. Everything feels challenging again for this Cowboys team. With his back against the wall, his job on the line, what did Mike McCarthy do? He reverted back to what he liked, what he was comfortable with, and not the stuff that was actually working. He went into his shell, and that is not good. Fight or flight was flight. Look, I am very tired of seeing glimpses of great design, of seeing moments of, hey, they ran that waggle and added a Jake Ferguson, leak play out of it. Cool, didn't work out, but it's a great offensive design. I saw some ground game tweaks against the Steelers, and then they went right back up to that tight inside zone. It's very frustrating to have this exact same conversation a year later. So with that in mind, what is your confidence level in Mike McCarthy? Some more on the Lamb Dak side of this here in a second. But what is your confidence level? 1 to 10, go vote at the pinned comment of today's show. The offense clicked last year after a not top 10 start. When it was, okay, it's going to be Dak and Lamb. You guys save us, have that great chemistry and that connection, and we'll mix in some stolen plays. What maybe gives you some hope for optimism here is the overall numbers for CeeDee Lamb don't look that different than what they were before the bye last year. Now, the big target difference of 13 is sizable. Some of those targets have not been quality targets, whether because of the coverage, because of the quarterback missing the throw, just the timing of it all, whatever. But he's got 2 fewer catches for one more touchdown, about 10 fewer yards. Does have 2 more drops because, again, that connection has been off. I think it's very clear they missed training camp. Dak had made the comment they were going to get together during the bye week. I hope that they did. Now, I'll also point out quarterback's numbers don't look that drastically different either. The complete percentage is down a pretty decent amount, but the yards and the yards per attempt, touchdowns are all up. INTs are up as well, which I'm actually more concerned about this year's INTs than the previous 2 years' INTs. Those are just some bad throws he's had in there. You got to get those two going. That you have to have it. That is how your offense worked last year. What concerns me, even if you get Dak and Lamb back on track, and I think you will. I have enough faith in both guys that, whether it's week 7, week 8, whatever it is, or I guess week 8, week 9, week 10, I think they'll get clicking again. It might not be enough. You've got other issues too that we're going to break down that I think are maybe even more challenging here. But I do think your best plan on offense is to get that connection right between Dak and Lamb, feed him, and get them going and clicking and exploding on offense again. Because otherwise, you don't have enough talent. You don't have enough schematic advantage. You don't have the ground game to make it work without those two playing, frankly, at a top 5 at each position level. What's what you had last year. You don't have it at all this season. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You can up to 100 times your money on as little as 4 correct picks. They've got action in over 30 states: California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. They'll even do some fun little bonus stuff for you, such as Anthony Edwards, a half point. It's basically a free square on your Prize Picks card. That's the more than on that. I'll also go more than Patrick Mahomes, INT against San Francisco. He has not been that great this year. And I think Brock Purdy's going to have to air it out against the Chiefs, given their own red zone woes as well. I'm going to follow my boy Chase's slate on this. So sign up today at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So go download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Let's talk bye week changes number 2. You have to change your ground game. And again, I am very annoyed that the exact same stuff I mentioned almost verbatim this time last year is still true. It's we've tried nothing and we're out of ideas crap. You've got 3 main issues. Order them however you want. Your scheme sucks. It is not a good running game scheme. It has significant issues. I called it tight zone as an insult. Mike McCarthy called it tight inside zone on purpose this week at his press conference. I hate that, I'll be honest. I really am just not a fan at all. It's terrible. I don't think your blocking has been very good, in part because I don't think your schematics maximize your personnel. Cowboys had some really good ground game success for a little bit, doing duo behind Zach Martin and Terrence Steele. Guess what they don't do? Run duo behind Zach Martin and Terrence Steele anymore. Guyton's had issues. I don't think BB's been that great in the ground game. It's a work in progress, but I've got great athletic offensive linemen. Why aren't I doing outside zone? Why aren't I doing tosses and sweeps and counters and duo? You're just trying to run the ball for 3 yards in a cloud of dust every play and wondering why you're getting 3 yards in a cloud of dust every play. It's just weird to me. Because you also lack juice in the backfield. Now, I think Derrick Henry would be better than what you have right now. I don't think he'd be what he is with the Ravens. They get him on the edges. Zeke's averaging 3 yards per carry. It's a wasted play. 6 out of 10 times you hand the ball, minimum. Just not very good. Rico Dowdle's been better. Why he got less snaps and carries than Zeke last week, I will never truly understand. Don't know why they made that back into a 50-50 rotation. I am at the point where, you know what? If you want to give Dalvin Cook a chance, give him a chance. I do think we have concerns as to why he hasn't had a chance yet. But if you're going to do it, coming out after the bye is the time to do so. So would you give Dalvin Cook a chance behind this Cowboys offense line in this ground game to try to jumpstart things? Y for yes, N for no. I think part of the potential reasons why Dalvin Cook has not played yet, he might be Dalvin cooked. Because in theory, if you're trusting your offensive coaching staff, they would know he doesn't look as good as the other backs. That's why he hasn't been called up yet. They also played Zeke over Dowdle, so maybe they're wrong on that front too. One reason why I'm intrigued by it here, in theory, since your head coach knows Dalvin Cook is a great outside zone runner, was at least at his best an outside zone guy, that would get me more of the stuff I want to see. I want to have more outside zone, not all inside zone. And maybe you can run some duo off of it, which I think actually fits better as a combination. That's my hope. But it might be hopium and not a realistic hope. Number 3, I would like to play Marquise Belmore. I was very impressed by what I saw out of Marquise Bell last year, playing out of position. He was a safety initially. They said, okay, we don't have the bodies. You're going to have to play linebacker for us. You're going to have to get in there and step up and make a bunch of plays for us. He's got like 23 snaps on defense this season. I don't have much information to glean from how he's played on defense. This year has been all of 23 snaps. But I have seen Malik Hooker. I have seen Donovan Wilson. I have seen my safeties. A safety room that I was very excited to have this season. I have seen them get, I would actually argue, significantly worse from what I've noticed in years past. That's frustrating to me. I'm down to play more Wanye Thomas as well. I think Wanye might be your Hooker replacement. Bell might be your Wilson replacement. I get their veterans, tone setters, whatever, attitude stuff. Got to make plays. They haven't made nearly enough plays. In fact, they've left more plays on the field than they have made them. So name a player who you would like to see play more. Drop that name or names for me in the comments of today's show. Number 4, pick your 5 on the offensive line and ride with it. No more waffling back and forth here. I think 4 of them should be pretty damn clear. It's Tyler Smith on the left side, Zach Martin at right guard, who did not play well last week, BB at center. Terrence Steele has not played. He had a tough game against the Lions, which reminds me, why did you not chip Aiden Hutchinson more than twice the entire game before he got hurt? They left their tackles on an island 85% of the time. A stupid offensive design. That's how Chaz Green almost got Dak Prescott murdered, by the way. I think Guyton, who has not been impressive, is still a better piece for you short-term, long-term than TJ Bass. So I'm going to keep Tyler Smith at left guard, help out my young center, and left tackle Tyler Guyton. I believe that Guyton is among my best 5 on the offensive line. I think he's my 5th, but I think he is among my best 5. I also think it helps with my continuity. I have made this point many a time before. I still maintain it. You can talk to other offensive line coaches out there. They will agree. You need continuity. You need time on task. You need reps. You need chemistry. You need all of those things, or the offensive line as an ecosystem kind of falls apart. I have not been impressed by Guyton. Truly, I have not been impressed. I've seen way too many technique issues. There are many times I wonder why he's on an island, or who they're putting on an island sometimes confuses me. But the tools are still there. You drafted a young raw guy in round 1. You said you're going to make him your starter early on in the season. Okay. Stick with it. You can't bail because the young raw guys play like a young raw guy. You just have to know that going in and keep working through it. Now, we'll have more Cowboys coverage for you all season long, so don't miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/CowboysTV. We haven't done much on defense, so I wanted to have something involving the defense here. I also think in general, fixing the defense is probably a little bit more complicated right now because you're missing so many pieces injury-wise. But this defense is bad. It's a bad defense. And it's been a bad defense for almost a year now. The last 13 games the Cowboys have played, they've allowed 26.6 points per game. That would be bottom 5 this year by the average numbers and bottom 2 last year. They still cannot stop the run on a consistent basis. They did it against Pittsburgh and the Giants and then got boat raced by the Detroit Lions on the ground. They still get gashed in the passing game. All the numbers, all of our eye test, everything says they can't stop passes, they can't stop deep shots, they can't stop the run. It's bend but always break. Outside of maybe you hold them to a field goal, which if it's a 12-play, 50-yard drive, is that really stopping them? I don't really think so. So, in a bigger picture philosophy mindset here, let's generate some explosives on defense. And what I mean by explosives on defense are big plays. Negative plays. Now, here's some of the rate metrics here. Cowboys are 13th in sack rate, 10th in pressure rate. Of note, the Browns game alone was responsible for 6 sacks and 25 pressures. So you take that out, and you're kind of what the rest of these metrics are. They're tied 15th in picks. They have 4 of them. They're tied 28th in fumbles. They're dead last in stuff rate, which is runs for a tackle for loss or no gain. They don't get the splash plays on defense, put themselves in position. They don't get the sacks to force third and longs, the tackles for loss to force advantageous defensive looks. You're going to get beat. You got to make some splash plays on defense. Now, you got to be a little bit more like some of those Dan Quinn defenses there. The sack and pressure rate numbers, they're fine, juiced by that Cleveland Browns game. In the end, defense in particular, I don't have a great answer beyond do the good plays, right? I don't know if there's a fix outside of you start tackling better, which we mentioned previously this week, so I didn't want to do it again. You get your players healthy. You figure out how you can just hold on some drives and force some third downs. I don't have a lot of great answers here. That's what worries me about the defense. It's been bad now, passing game included, for almost a season. All right, mailbag time. Hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat to get on the show. Those are your options. Hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat to get on today's show. I'm getting one stat here. Got JL Chanel's Super Chat in there. We'll get to threaten to be fired, Toxic Tom. That's definitely Toxic Tom Downey burner account. Of that I have no doubt. So let me know. Hashtag Cowboys or Super Chat to get on today's video. Now, this is the Super Chat menu. As a reminder, $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong, $300 the Pop-Tart Halloween costume, $500 the custom Cowboys jersey, and most hundreds in October gets the MVP jersey. That's Super Chat menu. Let's dive into today's mailbag. A super thanks to get things going on today's mailbag from Richard Robinson. When this disaster season is over, Jerry will probably blame it on the injuries. Dak says players need to look in the mirror. Do you think that behind the scenes the Jones boys have or will ever look in that same mirror at themselves? Or do they legitimately believe the crap they try to gaslight the fans with? If it's the latter, there's no hope for this team. There are times I think that they absolutely believe it. I think the latest rash of Jerry Jones lashing out is because he knows that they made some mistakes this year. He knows that they misjudged and they've whiffed, and they just don't want to hear it because they don't like taking accountability. I think they're definitely frustrated. They think that the coaching staff hasn't been good enough. But in the end, the coaches and players absolutely get blamed. I don't want to be like, oh, no, it's not their fault at all. It's not what I'm saying. But ownership hired everybody. They made the decisions. The buck stops there. My concern is they want to do things their way, and they will do it their way all the way down to the bitter, which, by the way, is what you see with Micah McCarthy and the offense. Same exact thing. Now, that came in via super thanks. So we'll get to 2 more about the coaching potential replacements for Mike McCarthy. But if you put in a super thanks, we will give you a shout just like we do on these super chats. You can donate outside of live videos. Click the thanks icon, edit your message, send in whatever. We'll give you some love. Ian Dickinson. Dixon? How do you pronounce that? Is it just Dixon or is it like Dickinson? I don't know. I'm being mean. Sorry, Ian. Not mean, but rambling for no reason. Kafka, better than Kellen Moore. And this is in reference to the Mike McCarthy replacements video. Kafka's not calling the plays anymore in New York. It's all Brian Dable. I actually like what Kafka was doing. I think that he kind of lost play calling because Daniel Jones sucks. So I don't think he's going to be a great head coach candidate. If I don't go with an offensive-minded head coach, like if I hire like a Mike Vrabel or something, I would have a lot of interest in Kafka as my offensive coordinator, though. Geraldo Neary, Mike Vrabel, next head coach. Let him cook. Hey, if I could somehow get Mike Vrabel head coach, Mike Kafka OC, you're going back to a lot of Mikes, which maybe you don't want to have with these two here, with their last Mike you've had. I think that intrigues me a pretty good amount. So I would not be mad at Mike Vrabel. You would absolutely have to figure out the offensive coordinator aspect, because that's what got him fired in Tennessee. Now, one of them became Matt LaFleur, worked out pretty well. Got to figure out what the offensive coordinator spot looks like. So who do you want as the next Dallas Cowboys head coach? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. At the pinned comment, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. Obviously, Pawar, what can a quarterback do without a running game, O-line, and coach? Again, I'm not trying to make it sound like the Dak is blameless here. I want to emphasize that part, because sometimes I think stuff gets lost in translation at points. But you still have to play better too. I don't think any of us would say Dak had played well. I will say, if you get improvements in one of those areas, suddenly all the other areas look a little bit better as well. That's kind of what bothers me about this offense, is that everything looks bad right now. Quarterback included. I think there are bigger issues than the quarterback, because I've seen him play at a very high level in this exact same offense. But it's just all messy and challenging, and I think there's starting to be a lot more frustration than there's supposed to be for a team coming off a 12-win season. From threatened to be fired, toxic Tom Downey burner account, MM is just a fat Garrett, no spine or motion. Your head coach doesn't like motion. He's stolen plays with it, but it is not a core staple of what he wants to do or be on offense. JL, Channel. Thoughts on Dak? Like he's hit his ceiling. He seems to not even go to more with the rush like other QBs. Time to draft a quarterback. So I actually think he's done a mostly good job of avoiding pressure and avoiding sacks. You can look at stuff like pressure to sack rate, which is, okay, you're getting pressure this amount of times. How often are you taking sacks? Those numbers haven't really changed significantly for Dak Prescott this past year. It's been pretty steady over the last two seasons, and I think when those errors come into play, it's Dak is trying to do too much. You can feel Dak pressing in some of these games because he knows he pretty much has to be perfect. Despite what he might say publicly, he knows that the ground game's not there, the O-line is not the way it is supposed to be, that he has to do more and make more plays. And I think under pressure, where he's been better than most quarterbacks, he has taken a step back this year. I think it is, you kind of reach that fall-off cliff where it's just been too much, and it's led to negative plays there. His pressure to sack rate is I'm looking at it right now, it's the exact same as C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels, which I think the Stroud and Dak being actually, they're kind of funny because they play very similar football games. One has a better offensive line and receiving core and play caller. So I have faith in Dak being able to get things right. And if you were to hire a new, fresh, young offensive mind, I think all of a sudden the offense would look so much better. Dak is not even top 10 in pressure to sack rate, or bottom 10, however the negative angle there. He has to be better. Don't get me wrong on that front. But I've still seen overall the play I've seen over his career. I think he'll be able to figure it out. But I kind of get before he got hurt in 2020 vibes. I don't know if the rest of it's going to be good enough. I think that the 2020 campaign right now and this season feel way too similar for me. And I mean that in a negative sense. Long answer, so we'll tell you guys about Game Time now. Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats. So don't waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. It is curation designed to save you even more on, if you want to go to a Cowboys game, but NBA games, MLB games. Well, at least they had MLB games, not so much for us in the Dallas area these days, but concerts, comedy, theater, and everything else in between. The Game Time guarantee is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app over gametime.co, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today, because what time is it? It's game time. Lawrence Rodriguez, what about Taj Brooks out of Texas Tech? Has that kind of bowling ball build. He's listed at 5'10", 230, something like that. I like the player. Very, very productive runner in 2023 for Texas Tech. On a pretty good track so far this year. I will say you can look at some of like the, if you can find them, some of like the early draft grades, not like the Blesto scouting and stuff. And, I think Dane leans pretty heavily on that stuff early on. I don't know if the NFL is as high on Taj Brooks. I wonder if there are speed concerns there. I think he's going to get drafted, but I think there are better backs you could certainly pursue in this year's class. From Reign Supreme, since Jerry Jones loves to have credit in his direction because of ego, wouldn't it make sense for him to want to make the team better so he will get the credit for the moves he made? Look at Howie Roseman. Just my opinion. I agree, but you can go back to the it all stems in away from the Jimmy Johnson stuff. Jerry wanted more credit than what he was getting. So he doesn't want to have another Bill Parcells type guy. I think Jerry reached his point with the roster. He's like, I got to get some more help in here, and he picked Bill Parcells. I think he thinks that they're not that far away, that what they are doing has mostly worked. So he doesn't need a drastic change. I don't know if that would ever happen anyway. Your logic is sound, Reign Supreme. I don't know if there's a logical argument that could get Jerry to change his mind, though. Charlie Colton, should Jerry sign Leonard Fournette like Shaq suggested? No. Unless you want to form the true infinity gauntlet of backs who were good 4 years ago and build the best running back room in 2020 with Dalvin Cook and Zeke and Fournette, then no. He's not good anymore. He hasn't been good in like 3 years. I have enough guys that fit that mold. Now, whether it's via signing or via trade, name a player who you want to add. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Christian Pagan, will Jerry Jones trade for Max Crosby since Jerry Jones is close to the Davis family? Big fat no for me there, because I don't think the Raiders want to trade Max Crosby. Remember, they already picked the Crosby over the head coach. They got rid of Josh McDaniels, which was the right decision, but they made that call to ride with Max Crosby, and I don't think Crosby necessarily wants out. I think he likes the Raiders. He's due for a new contract, by the way. I think he'll get one soon. They've taken care of him, gone another way to take care of him. I'd be pretty shocked if Max Crosby got dealt. Could you call? Sure. He's a hell of a football player that I would love to get. I just don't think it's that realistic in the end. Chase Wolf, #Cowboys. I believe the Cowboys will win the division. Last year, that kind of convo with McCarthy, the offense looked better. Dak looked more comfy. Stats kind of turn on offense and defense. Here's my issue. You had the conversation. It worked. And then they went away from it. So that concerns me. Because why'd you go away in the first place, That's what worries me deep down. The defense hasn't had a consistent good play for like a 3-game stretch in like a calendar year. So I hope that you're right, Chase. I truly do. I am concerned that it's not going to happen. Now, we will be here, loss, win, hopefully never for a tie. So don't miss out. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/CowboysTV. Even Rico, who are some players on the market we could possibly make a move for, even though we won't, since Amari and Devontae are gone? So potential names. Hassan Reddick is maybe on the market. Probably not to an NFC team, though, because of the trade condition stuff, which was kind of weird. You can call about DeAndre Hopkins. You can call about a Christian Kirk, a Travis Etienne. You can call about a Josh Uche. There are players. Jerry Jones got all pissed. He says, well, who's out there? Lots of players, Jerry, but you got to call. Your son already said they don't want to be the ones making the calls first because they think they lose the deal. Stupid mindset to have. There are players out there. Would they go do it? Don't know. Brandon J., if he's fired, sign me up for Stefanski as the next head coach. Yep, I agree. Kevin Stefanski had the Browns winning with Joe Flacco. That's impressive. Deshaun Watson is just bad. So, yeah, if Stefanski gets canned, in a heartbeat, I would do that. In a heartbeat. Hell, maybe he keeps Zimmer as his DC since they used to coach together. Yeah, I'm down there for sure. Bo Barnett, bring in Jamal Adams. No. Adams was unhappy with his playing time in Tennessee. I don't think he's good. I think the injuries have caught up to him. Not interested in Jamal Adams at this point in his NFL career. Now, he does join a very select group of what I call the almost Cowboys legends. Players like Earl Thomas, Caleb Von Chason, etc. Name a player who was almost a Cowboy. Derrick Henry fits this mold too, or at least could have been. That fits that bucket. Let me know in the comments. Have some fun down there. Last one here from Clayton Lockhart. Tom, I agree we need a younger guy to be the head coach and not Belichick, but can you name the first-year head coach that can stand up to the Joneses, overbearing, meddling? Does he exist? Counterpoint. Does the head coach the Joneses would actually hire exist in that fashion? That's what's tough for me. That is the tricky spot you're in, where it almost becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why I am hopeful the Cowboys do a wide coaching search and they get blown away by somebody and don't just settle on the first guy that they interview and then do a sham second interview. That's what I hope happens. We'll see. The Super Chat menu, $20 for a shot, $50 for a beer bong, $300 for I get to bust out the Pop-Tart Halloween costume. Hell, maybe we'll make it a raffle item as well. $500, the custom Cowboys jersey. Most hundreds in October gets the MVP jersey. Thursday Night Football, who you got? It's the Sean Payton Bowl and also like a bunch of Denver Broncos players. Revenge game. Who you got? S for the Saints, B for the Broncos. I also want to shout out some good almost Cowboys legends. Randy Moss is a good one. Odell Beckham is a good one. I will say, Lance Dunbar's burner, Dallas was not going to take Dallas Goedert. Well, now, they needed a tight end, yes, but they were going to take Connor Williams. The Eagles just were worried they were going to. But I think that still counts since he's named after the Dallas Cowboys, which is pretty funny. There were some good ones in there. Eric Berry's a good one, too. I do owe a shot. You're right. Thank you, Chris. Eric Berry, I don't know if he ever actually was a Cowboys legend. As near as I have been able to gather, bringing him in for the visit, getting his name on the transaction wire, may have been a little bit of a favor being done by the Cowboys of like, yeah, we'll help you out. And then they did the physical, and it came back, and it's like, no, dude, you can't play anymore. Which sucks. Eric Berry was so good for so long, and then the injuries just destroyed his body. It stunk. Bottoms up. There we go. Who you got? S for the Saints, B for the Broncos. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Let's, we'll open up full screen this one. We don't ever do that really, so we'll make it different there. So get those votes in, S or B. TJ Watts does count as a almost Cowboys legend. That one people will never get over. We're talking injuries on today's Cowboys Report. We're going to talk 10 players here. We'll give you updates on Tyler Guyton, Micah Parsons, Deron Bland, Kalen Carson, Eric Kendricks, DeMarcus Lawrence, Zach Martin, Brandon Cooks, Jordan Phillips, and maybe a secret hidden injury on this Cowboys roster right now. But first, overall, with the health of this Dallas Cowboys team, what is your concern level? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1, of course, is the low end. 10 is the high end. Rate your concern level in the comments of today's show. Now, let's look at Micah Parsons to kick things off here. He has a chance to return and play with his high ankle sprain against the 49ers. I would not consider that, though, a lock right now. I don't think it is a guarantee. I think that the overall, last week of practice, or not practice, but recovery into this one is going to matter. We really won't know until, Thursday, Friday, most likely. Mike McCarthy, at his midweek press conference earlier, said, I don't know, when asked about if Mike was going to play. This is a big week for him. It's a big week for him. He's making progress. I don't think Mike would know either way, because it's too early to tell. He would not have played this week had there been a game. No chance. The earliest window was going to be this game against San Francisco. Then maybe a week after. You could also see a scenario in which Micah plays but is limited and isn't playing every single snap or the same percentage snaps he plays, and he gets more of a pitch count type of deal. Your defense misses him, especially in the pass rush. He's not a premier run defender by any stretch of the imagination. Make no mistake about it, that's just not who he is. But as a pass rusher, he's still really friggin' good. And you have missed him these last couple of games. Now, he didn't get off to the same start this past season. He was good against the Browns. He's still been, if you give any PFF credit, their best graded player. Less than what it was in previous years, make no mistake. If you can ever get into a pass rush situation, this would be the type of player you desperately need out there. So will Micah Parsons play against the 49ers? It is the pinned comments on today's show, so let me know if the ad comes here on YouTube by typing in Y for yes, N for no. Let's stick with the defensive line pass rush here. DeMarcus Lawrence is still on injured reserve, and he likely won't return until some point in November. Now, that could be maybe over under around Thanksgiving, which is frankly pretty brutal, all things considered, for this Dallas Cowboys pass rush unit. And they don't have Tank Lawrence. They don't have Marshawn Nealand. They have Chauncey Golston, Tyrus Wheat, KJ Henry, Carl Lawson right now. It's a pretty bad crew. They don't have the horses up front, because no team can survive being down their top 4 pass rushers. So hopefully Tank comes back, and when he does come back, the season isn't over yet. Let's go to defensive tackle here. Jordan Phillips is eligible to return from injured reserve, but there's been no word on if that's going to happen. If you recall, Jordan Phillips didn't think he needed to go on IR. He thought he was fine. I think what happened, if we're reading tea leaves properly here, the Cowboys weren't too pleased with Jordan Phillips. They're like, hey, bud, we traded for you. You're not playing well. You're not quite in the shape we need you to be in, so we're going to put your eye on IR with that wrist injury, which I think he did aggravate a little bit, and then we'll figure things out later. Turns out, folks, when you make 0 defensive line moves that matter until August on a bad group, you get bad play out of it. Who would have thought that one would have happened? Go figure, right? We'll see if Phillips ends up playing this year or not. Maybe at some point, but I have very real concerns there. Today's show was made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. They invented the flex play, which means even if you get one of your picks wrong, you can still cash out with your lineup. They also do fun little, I call them free squares. Anthony Edwards free square. More than a half point in the NBA, in the basketball season opener. Seems pretty easy on that front. I like Patrick Mahomes more than the half interception, and Brock Purdy more than a touchdown and a half passing as well. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. Let's go to Tyler Guyton. Now, Dallas has said Guyton wasn't 100% with that knee injury, and that's why he sat out week 6. There's been enough speculation that maybe that was just a convenient excuse, But if we take them at their word both times, he should be back and good to go against the 49ers. Guyton has not played well enough this season. I think that is very obvious for everyone who has watched him play so far this year, that Guyton has not been good enough. He has struggled. He has had technique woes. He just hasn't been a consistent, reliable left tackle. Now, you kind of knew that going in, that the young, raw guy was going to be the young, raw guy. But you have to get better play. Hopefully he's healthy, and hopefully he starts showing promise. Let's go to Deron Bland. Now, sounds like he is expected to return for the Cowboys against the 49ers. Now, there had been some real options he was going to play last week. Then in what has kind of been a buried quote from Stephen Jones, because there was other Jerry stuff that got everyone's attention, a slight setback happened for Bland. Here's what Stephen said. He had a little setback late in the week in terms of soreness, and we just didn't want to push that issue. We felt like giving him another full 2 weeks to build his confidence, to get out there and not have a setback, was worth not having him out there against the Lions. I think you very much missed Deron Bland right now, because that's the pick six king, right? He was awesome in 2023. Had a couple bad games sprinkled in, but I think those got overblown in the end. Of note for Deron Bland, sounds like he's going to be back this week. Once that's made official, Dallas will have to add another, or make room for him by putting somebody on IR or cutting somebody. So who are you dumping to make room for Deron Bland? Maybe it's a corner. Maybe it's somebody else on the roster. Name that player who you're going to cut or put on IR with an injury to get Bland onto the 53-man roster. One sneaky answer could be Kalen Carson, or maybe it just ends up being Andrew Booth, ends up making more sense there. What's curious to me is that Carson practiced in full before the Lions game, but was still a scratch. He did not play despite being a full participant. So maybe he wasn't healthy. Maybe Dallas just didn't like what they were seeing and wanted Booth on special teams, and then just decided to not play Carson at all. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe he just wasn't 100%, kind of like the Tyler Guyton thing. Kind of falls into the same category there. But something has to change in that cornerback room once Bland comes back. He's going to start. It'll be Diggs, Bland, and Lewis. You haven't had those three guys starting together the entire season yet. So whether it is probably Carson or Booth, since Izzy helps you out on special teams, somebody's maybe not going to be on that roster anymore. Now, we will have more Cowboys injury news for you as we get it throughout the week. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button, youtube.com/CowboysTV. Let's go to Eric Kendricks here. Now, he was battling two injuries this past week, didn't practice at all, a calf and a shoulder. I don't know which injury is worse right now, which raises some concerns overall. I am hopeful that the 2 weeks off is going to be enough to right those ailments for him. I think you missed him. It looked like there were several times against the Lions, your defense just wasn't quite sure where to line up. There was some confusion, some miscommunication, woes. They were trying Damone Clark and Nick Vigil and Maurice Leofau out there alongside DeMarvion Overshown with inconsistent results overall. Vigil was banged up too. He still played, but I don't think he's a great football player. I kind of don't think he should be playing real snaps at all. So hopefully getting Kendricks back helps out your defense significantly. One that is worth monitoring, and we'll see if he plays through it still. I don't think Zach Martin is 100%. He missed practice last week with a back injury and then had his worst game ever. Objectively speaking, the guy we saw out there against the Lions didn't look like Zach Martin. It did not look like the guy we are so accustomed to. He looked bad. He got beat a ton. He had penalties. It wasn't just getting confused. The O-line did get confused. He got straight up overpowered on some plays. That never happens to Zach Martin. So I'm actually kind of hoping it was a minor back issue that'll be fixed in time for the Niners game and not a lingering one or an issue that's going to cause more problems and just its old age, which are very valid. So is this Zach Martin's last year in the NFL? A for yes, B for no. Go vote in the comments of today's show. Brandon Cooks, look, he has to miss at least 2 more games because he went on IR. The bye week does not count in that 4-game return window. With that knee injury that came because he had the injection that turned into an infection, I think his status more than anybody on this list is a complete unknown. It's not like it's a high ankle sprain, you know the general time frame. It's an infection. It could be another day. It could be another month. Like, there's really no idea, no way of knowing when Cooks is going to get back outside of us getting real updates from the organization, from Cooks himself. The results this year have not been very good. Why they keep doing so many comeback routes to them, I don't fully understand. I will say, I think Jalen Tolbert should stay in his role once Cooks comes back. And I think you can kind of still utilize Kevontae Turpin and, stop with the Jalen Brooks experiments in the end. But maybe the decline in play from Cooks was because that knee was bothering him. That could be a very real explanation. Let's go to Ezekiel Elliott. Now, this one is the surprise secret injury. Because if you caught that Steelers game, I know we're going back the clock a little bit here. He had a Band-Aid on his shoulder, had a tough time getting those pads on. And I think very valid speculation theory has been, maybe he had an injection, maybe there's something up with his shoulder. Wouldn't be a huge surprise to me. That's part of the issue of signing Zeke. He's been banged up a lot over the past couple years. He's played through it, but he's been banged up. And the production has not been very good. 38 carries, 115 yards. That's just not good. If he is banged up, I really wonder why they're kind of powering through and pushing through it. But maybe there is something up with Zeke. All right, prediction time. Will the Cowboys make the playoffs? Y for yes, N for no. It is a 74% no vote in the comments. Wow. Vibes bad. Vibes bad. I get it. Y for yes, N for no in the comments of today's show. Now, we will not be live again until next Monday because, there's no Sunday Cowboys game for us to do. So the Cowboys can't hurt us this Sunday. We'll see you guys on Monday, which is when we'll really start to prep for the Niners, and something tells me that game's going to hurt. Don't miss out, though. Hit that sub button right now.